Hello, everyone. Hello. We are tuning in today to talk about performance marketing. This session is brought to you by GetCraft. I'm Shash. I'm the network director for GetCraft Singapore. Let's start off. What is GetCraft? GetCraft, for people who do not know, who've tuned in, GetCraft is Southeast Asia's largest creative network connecting clients with creators. So it's really tapping into the gig economy. We are in 4 markets: Indonesia, Malaysia, Philippines, and Singapore. That's how our site really looks like, getcraft.com. You can find all kinds of vendors. We have vendors in 3 different buckets. First is the strategic specialists, where we have the marketers, the creative directors, researchers, tech specialists, performance marketers. The second one is the content producers, which is writers, editors, photographers, and videographers. And finally, we have sponsored content, where we work with publishers, media, celebrities, and influencers. So pretty much go on to the search bar there, or you look at the categories, and you can actually see the listing of vendors. These are all premium vetted creators on the platform. We take the vetting process really seriously because you place your brand trust with these creators. So we've got to make sure that we are the premium creators in there. All right. So these are the brands we've helped so far. We work with brands, we work with agencies, we white label work, all of that. So yeah. And today's agenda is really on performance marketing and how that can really help grow your business. Misconception of growth in what you might be expecting growth to be like, and how Rob will redefine that. Profit-driven marketing for e-commerce and lead generation, and how do you take action with different resources and case studies. And ta-da-da! Today we have Robert Lai, who's our first speaker with a world record, really. He's the fastest he's got the fastest Bing accreditation at 9 minutes and 37 seconds. He's had he's consulted 285 agencies with 400 million ad spend and 3,500 accounts managed. He's come all the way from New York. He's ex-Google New York, and now he started off his own agency on performance marketing called Kaliber. And welcome, Rob. Thank you for being here and sharing all your thoughts.
Thank you for having me. Awesome. Nice to meet everyone here. We definitely want to add as much value as possible, so to quickly share what we're going to go through today. From working with the top agencies in the US and large advertisers like Samsung that have invested millions into performance marketing channels, what we're sharing today are valuable lessons from those experiences and how companies like Amazon dominate the game of performance marketing. So a couple things that we're going to deeper dive into today is measuring and optimizing towards deeper metrics and why we should do that, value-based conversion actions and how you can optimize towards them, and how that can impact your metric, impacts the output that you get in terms of performance marketing, and 4 actionable tips that you can apply right after this webinar. We understand there's going to be a mix of e-commerce-based businesses and lead generation businesses in the audience today, so we've got examples for both. So first off, we want to start off with the misconception of growth in performance marketing. For every dollar that I've heard either one of these quotes, basically it goes directly into Amazon's share price, because essentially this is what Amazon thrives on. Mm-hmm. They thrive on us not capturing enough market share or content with the market share that we have, so they can dominate the market share. So for every lead generation client that I've worked with, I've always heard in the past, I want more leads for less cost. And for every e-commerce customer, I just want a ROAS of 10x, return on ad spend. And the issues with this we'll go through slide by slide, but they do not relate to growth, and we'll explain why. So comparing Amazon's growth metric or KPI or objective to the average e-commerce customer, Amazon wants to own 50% market share in Singapore by the end of 2021. It's an objective that is clearly driven towards growth, towards market share, and not towards marketing metrics, which we tend to get caught up with. If we go to the next slide. Now, the reasons why this is important is we can sort of take a look into a bit of performance marketing jargon. In the early 2000s, advertisers were, intrigued about how they could get visitors from all over the world to come to their website. So they prioritized clicks. And hence we have the metric cost per click, which is CPC. Over time, they realized that they wanted their customers to perform valuable actions on the websites, which we now call conversions. Hence, we have a CPA target, or a cost per acquisition target. Later on, they realized that they can go beyond just recording transactions and start recording revenue. So hence, we came up with return on ad spend. So for every dollar that we spent, how much revenue did we generate, right? This is where most advertisers are today, right? This is where I would say 99% of advertisers are today. However, if we go to the next slide, a lot of businesses and are starting to move on to deeper metrics, right? What are deeper metrics? They are profit and customer lifetime value, customer equity. By understanding, and the reason why these are growth metrics and the reason why you should move towards them is because they align with your business goals. Return on ad spend does not align with what you want to achieve in 2020 or 2021, or what your investors want you to achieve if you're a startup, right? They want to see your sheets in the green, and frankly, profit and customer lifetime value is the money that you see in the bank account. So these are metrics that we want to work towards, and the ad networks have allowed us to enter our, let's just say our personal details, or like business-related details back into the platforms, right? So just to touch on profit a little bit, what are some examples here? If you're an e-commerce customer, you are likely to, you will have new customers. Sorry, if we go back, sorry.
Yeah.
You will have new customers and existing customers, right? Those existing customers add to your overall customer lifetime value. The new customers, we can probably view them from a profit sense. But overall, it's about acquiring the customer and trying to increase the customer lifetime value as well. So actually, we can probably move on to the next slide. Sorry. The point I'm trying to get across will be in these couple of examples. So for the average lead generation client, who wants more leads for less cost, what tends to happen here is from that quote itself, there's a couple of things that I determined to not have happened. What we haven't factored in, the quality of the leads, right? It's not just about getting more leads, it's about getting quality leads, making sure those leads translate into sales. So hence, we need a deeper metric to be able to work towards. The other component to that is when we want to get more efficient, we tend to give up market share. Now, there's no issues in getting efficient. I don't want to send the wrong message, but there are issues when we want to give up market share, right? Because what happens in this scenario, as shown in the graphics, is every time a prospect inquires and searches for us, because we're trying to get efficient, our competitors will continue being there, and we may not show up for every auction. What happens there is we obviously lose market share to our competitors. So it depends on what your overall goals are, but I don't think I want more leads for less cost is the right goal that you want to align with. In the next example is e-commerce related. And this one I've seen time and time again in the US. Basically, every time you see Amazon's share price go up, another small business just closed down. It's quite sad. But simply here, the same water bottle is being sold for $1.50. Amazon makes a loss of $1.50 on the sale of a bottle of water by taking the #1 position on Google search. On the flip side, the e-commerce client makes $1.50 on the sale of a water bottle by optimizing towards a ROAS goal. Now, the reason why Amazon doesn't care so much about the loss is because they are driving towards the average customer lifetime value that they have of $2,000. The average e-commerce client who is giving up the market share to Amazon gets a one-time transaction and profits $1.50. Now, the issue with that is over time, Amazon eats up more and more market share, and they eventually price out the e-commerce client from making a profit on that one-time transaction. So hence, we try to move towards deeper goals. So not everyone's Amazon, right? I'm a small business. How do I take action? First off, let's think about what are the things that Amazon does well, right? They have every detail of their customer. They optimize the customer journey. They sell more products than one. They prioritize acquiring the user and recording every single detail of the customer and its interaction with the website to identify any immediate gaps or opportunities that they can then capitalize on, right? So this is something that you can do as well. So invest in the CRM. Point number 2, configure your ad networks and data reporting to be able to track or at least reflect the cost of goods sold or the value of a phone call versus a form fill versus a WhatsApp message, right? What this means is if you have data on your cost of goods sold, then input them into the ad platforms. At least that way, if you're still working towards a ROAS goal, at least you'll be able to have clear visibility on how much profit you've driven. When it comes to a phone call, I'm sure many people in the lead gen space understand that maybe a phone call isn't as valuable as a form fill, right? But what we commonly see in our clients' reporting is they value them as the same one conversion, when in fact, one phone call could equal to, one form fill could equal to 4 phone calls in terms of value, right? So you want to have a level playing field. So you want to assign a value to a phone call or a form fill or a message or assign that by ad network. Facebook leads may not be as high quality as Google Ads leads, right? So you want to make sure that you have values assigned to each so you can distinguish between the two. The third point, set targets based on business-related objectives and not just marketing-related objectives, right? At the end of the day, the objective is to help grow the business. And today, with the amount of data we can input back into these ad networks, we're able to work towards those business-related objectives. And by working towards them, you'll, by just simply inputting the data in there, it'll unlock you a whole world of opportunities to optimize towards. Lastly, the tip that we'll cover is focus on the user journey, diversify your marketing investments, and double down on your value propositions and your advantages. Now, the area that Amazon cannot compete against you is in the customer service and the added value propositions that you provide to your customer. They're too generic, right? They rely on the algorithm to remarket products, but ultimately you deliver a better service. You can improve on your user experience online, and you are likely to have a stronger value proposition outside of them selling all these other products, right? So focus on what works well for you. Diversify your marketing investments. I can even give you an example of one industry that is suffering right now. You guys have probably seen lots of drop shipping ads all over, the internet and on YouTube. Facebook has recently started attacking them in terms of shutting down their Facebook accounts, which has led them to having to find other avenues for marketing investments. And Facebook accounts for 90% of the spend of these drop shipping companies. So diversifying marketing investments is important, but diversifying them blindly isn't the right way also. So hence steps 1, 2, and 3 will help you diversify properly. To deep dive into these tips a bit more, pro tip number 1, CRM. What CRM should we use? There are so many options out there that I don't think I have the right answer for you. HubSpot offers a free CRM. There are other ones that are more aligned with e-commerce. There are plenty of options out there. Salesforce is more of a, they have an SME one, but it's more for enterprise, I would say, with the amount of customizable options there. So there isn't a perfect one. Ultimately, what we want out of the CRM is to be able to record any customer touch points that you have made online and offline. You want to be able to record the data. You want to be able to feed the data back into the ad networks. What do I mean by that? You can either UTM track, or that's a tracking parameter. So there's lots of different ways that you can track from CRM back into the ad networks, and you can look at if those CRMs have those integrations as well. How does a CRM level up your performance marketing game? Well, as mentioned, you're able to gather data, assign values to each tracked source. So the examples we gave earlier was a phone call, a WhatsApp inquiry, a Facebook lead versus a Google search lead. When it comes to e-commerce, you're able to see if that person has purchased with you before, or if they're a new customer. So those are things that help you level up your performance marketing game. And the signals that you get from those clients, you're also able to upload those email lists back into Google Ads and Facebook as well, as many of you may be aware. What's the purpose of these values? It allows performance marketers to better understand the true return on investment for each conversion action that they deem valuable, right? By understanding the value-based things on a value-based level, we're able to allocate the right budgets and channel strategy. Now, to touch up on that a bit more, what do I mean by value-based? Let's just say closed sale of a lead is $100, and it took 20 phone calls to be able to close that lead on average. What I would set as my value for a phone call would be $5. For a lead that comes through from a form fill, let's just say from Google Ads, converts at 25%, then the value that I'm signing to every lead that comes through will be $25. From there, I'm able to optimize towards the revenue portion that is generated from each action. That way, I can tell the system to prioritize more form fills over phone calls. So that's the value of being able to use a CRM. We go to the next tip. Secondly, user data. So as mentioned, enter these values back into the ad networks. Since we already gave the lead generation example, I'll touch up more on e-commerce. Now, if you have an e-commerce website with 1,000 products, there's through Merchant Center, for Google Merchant Center, you're able to upload the cost of goods sold. Right, that's the best option. If you have a generic or an average profit margin that you're looking to make on every product, and let's just say in this example, it's 50%, then you can create a custom column, as I have in this screenshot. The revenue times the margin minus the costs of advertising. By doing so, you have a column that you can optimize towards to judge every channel on. And that way, you're able to keep track of how much profit you're generating and optimizing towards generating more profit rather than just a ROAS target or return on ad spend target. By doing this, you're able to judge every channel on its ability to not only drive sales and drive profit, but also those softer conversions as well. So soft conversions could be engagement, could be add to cart, could be someone clicking a WhatsApp button or downloading a PDF. Those things will start becoming more sort of, you're able to see more value out of those actions because you're ultimately working towards a profit number rather than a ROAS number. Right? ROAS, I would say, is a very short-term goal. Long-term, you want to generate more profit. We can go to the next slide. So a case study here. So Selly ID is an app, a free keyboard app that has been acquired by Gojek. They're a free app, so when they reached out to us, they had the challenge of trying to monetize their app. So What we did here was track every touch point within the app. We used Firebase to be able to do this. Every touch point included download, open, sign up. App allows you to generate invoice, calculate shipping costs, all within your keyboard. So if you're on WhatsApp, it's an attachment above, and you'll be able to generate these within the conversation that you're having with the customer. From there, we assign values to every touch point. So basically, how they generated revenue was from a paid invoice. So they will get commission from the payment gateway, and then we work backwards to assign values to every single touch point, even the download. By leveraging automation and prioritizing the highest value touch points, we ended up acquiring high quality users, and we also increased the retention of the existing users. So if you go to the next slide. So the results were, within 5 months, we increased the number of active users from 1,500 to 5,000, increased their revenue by 612%, and increased the repeat rate of their most valued action by 2.45 to 9.1 per user, resulting in a 24x return on investment. So there wasn't any sort of genius thing that we did here. It was simply from tracking more deeply and leveraging universal app campaigns, which is an automated campaign in Google Ads to then generate more of these actions. So we can move on to pro tip number 3. I'm sure there'll be questions on that one later. How to optimize towards business objectives. I can share that, before I left Google, there was a strong push for the consultants to push more of their agencies and their end customers towards business objectives. Why? Because essentially, by optimizing towards a business objective, you end up spending more on Google and Facebook. So that's obvious benefit to them. However, the results for customers were quite substantial. So now that you have complete visibility on tracking your conversion actions and all your marketing metrics, we can start looking at setting the right targets for your marketing department. A business objective could be to increase profits by 20% year over year by the end of 2020. With a profit column already in place, we align our business objectives with our individual campaign activity, down to the audience and keyword level. Right? That's how granular you're able to see those metrics. From individual ROAS, you can still use individual ROAS goals. However, I don't want you to confuse ROAS with profit. Right? If you spent $1,000 at a 20x ROAS, you end up with $20,000, which is likely to be less profitable in most situations if you were to spend $1 million at a 2x return, which means $2 million. Depends on margins, as mentioned, but 9 times out of 10, you are likely to be making more money or more profit by spending $1 million at 2x than 1,000 at 20x. So it's important to find that sweet spot and keep testing to adjust for that sweet spot, and always to, the moment we start looking at return on ad spend per campaign, we start cutting out our upper funnel strategies, right? Because they don't deliver the same results as our lower funnel tactics. And that essentially cuts out the amount of people that you reach, which over time deteriorates your return on ad spend as well. So hence, we try to work towards a profit goal instead. If you go next slide. Now that we have all our business objectives aligned, it's time to try and achieve that goal. Now, what I tend to see with a lot of advertisers, everyone understands the value in investing in digital marketing, right, over TV. You're able to reach your target audience without having to spend for all the other people that weren't necessarily your customers, right? The problem that we find, though, is people still take a TV approach to digital marketing. What do I mean by TV approach? I mean that they still serve the same ad to all the people within their pool, right? What digital marketing allows you to do is target a segment and personalize towards that segment. So what we're trying to move people more towards is to personalization, right? In order for you to extract more results and to double down on your value proposition, And to beat Amazon is to be able to respect the user journey and personalize based on it. Right? What Amazon will not do is create content on the products that you sell, on how to use them. Those are things that you can do that Amazon won't do. Right? For users that are in the awareness stage, they are likely looking for more information to become a more informed buyer. But the ads that they see are 50% off or buy now, which don't really add value to what they're trying to achieve. Those are more for customers in the purchase stage. When it comes to the consideration stage, those users are looking to compare one product to another. They look at reviews. That's something that Amazon does have. But there's no reason why you can't do a testimonial or have an explainer video to show how your product is superior to your competitors or superior to the one that Amazon has, for example. So a few things here. So in order to extract more results, we need to understand the stage that the user is in. So how do we assess what stage the user is in? Well, when it comes to search, as mentioned, people like to type in who, what, where, how type of keywords, right? To understand or gather more information. Now, to us, and when we look at a ROAS or on a CPA basis, on a return on ad spend basis, those are our least profitable or least sort of valued customers, right? We cut them out first because they don't deliver the same value as the ones in consideration and purchase stage. But it's not to say they aren't valuable to the business overall, right? So it's important to address the needs of these customers, even though they aren't purchasing today. Because what we found, or what we find is with those enterprise businesses that I've worked with, is that they try to address those needs, and what that builds is loyalty within the brand, with the brand that has delivered them the content and the information, and it also makes our remarketing strategies so much more in depth, right? So we can monitor the user's behavior on the website to gauge their level of interest. What this means is if they've come from the awareness stage, we can see if they've spent a minimum of 90 seconds on the website, if they've visited multiple pages, if they've signed up for something, right? This will put them in the consideration stage. And from there, you're able to put them into an entire journey of a remarketing funnel, right? Similar to what you would do with your email, you should do for your remarketing. You should try to find them on YouTube, find them on Facebook, right? And from there, you'll be able to send users on different journeys. What I mean by that is you can send a new user on a completely different journey to a returning user. The ads that a returning user should see should be different to what a new user should see. So that allows you to personalize a little bit more, and that's how you can have the advantage over companies like Amazon, because they're not doing this, and they won't, because they don't, they're not niching down on anything. They're just going very broad, just taking market share. And this is how you take market share back. I think the next slide is a case study. So this is a case study on one of Kaliber's clients that we've picked up earlier this year. And they're in a highly competitive furniture industry. They've got hundreds of products, and they have different levels of competition across every SKU, right? With mattresses, we compete against bed-in-the-box mattresses, and we compete against mattress brands, and also other online furniture companies. One other challenge that we've had was there was a singular ROAS goal to maintain across the entire account. But what we found was there's obviously a different ROAS goal across different products. Some products have higher margins, which means they have a higher ROAS goal. So a singular ROAS goal to maintain across the entire account doesn't make too much sense. The solution for us was to try to create a more personalized campaign and restructure. We tried to input the cost of goods data to be able to calculate profit and work towards business objectives, try to drive more profit for the business. And the results of that were, sorry, if we go to the next slide. The results of that were a decrease in return on investment, or return on ad spend, sorry, not investment, of 23%, right? We actually, if we work towards a ROAS goal, we were actually below that. But what happened was, by increasing the amount of revenue, and though we got a little bit less efficient, we ended up driving 70% more in gross profit. and that was just across Google. So what we found across both Facebook and Google was the total sales increased by 70% within the first month. And we helped the client hit their first 7-figure month and back-to-back 7-figure months the next month as well. And then we sold out of products. And we have, the client has then committed to reinvesting a lot of money back into the channels that we've opened for them. Next slide. Okay, sorry. That was the end of it. And what we'd like to offer to the GetCraft customers and new customers is a free audit. So basically, my team and I will take a look into your account, provide you with comprehensive insights on the account level, campaign level, ad group level, best practices, user experience, measurement and attribution optimization tips, and strategic account structure recommendations. I like to mention that it's completely no obligations. You don't have to work with us. You can take those tips and take them back to your existing agency or your existing team. And I'll sort of, Shashwat, do we turn to Q&A now or?
Can do.
Okay, sorry. Next slide. So I've also, one of the things I've encountered in Asia is there's a huge hunger of people looking for resources and just ways to learn. So we're creating a free resource, blogs and hacks on performance marketing. We're also creating tools as well for you to be able to measure your return on investment. No subscription needed, nothing needed, no sign up or clickbait signups or anything like that. You can just go on and check out some of our blogs. But we just started, so we're constantly updating with new content. And the next slide. And for our GetCraft customers that want to work with us, we have a special offer to work with us as well. So you can either find us on getcraft.com/Kaliber or contact Kimberly at getcraft.com. I want to open it up to be able to answer any questions that you may have. And Shashwat, do we have any questions prepared?
Yeah, I have a few questions. Sure. And guys, please feel free to put in your questions in the chat box on the right side, or if you're on mobile, on the lower bottom corner. You spoke about, how performance marketing is intrinsically linked with CRMs. Mm-hmm. So when you work with clients, do you actually look into their CRM systems, and how do you go about, working with them if they've not invested in one?
Yeah, we do request for access to CRM. If we can't get access because of additional fees or anything like that, mm-hmm. We'll work with whatever data we can plug back in. What I mean by that is, we try to keep open lines of communication with our customers. Right. Because frankly, what we see in our platform is a lead, mm-hmm. but we don't know what the quality of the lead is. Right. We don't know how big that customer is, right? You could have picked up an Amazon-sized customer, or you could have picked up a small e-commerce business. Right. So it's important to have those open lines of communication to be able to understand what value was brought in from those leads, either between the marketing and sales teams or from an agency to a client relationship. So CRM is one way that we can have that mutual view, mm-hmm. But to also see from the leads, how many did they close? Right. But I would say that it's more so, just trying to open up those lines of communication. So some businesses don't have a CRM. Mm-hmm. That's understandable. Could be additional cost. They may be too early to use one. Right. So yeah, it really is dependent.
Right. All right. Rob, what do you think about Facebook Shops that have been launched, the new feature of Facebook Shops, and how is that going to change, the e-commerce business of today?
Yeah, I think Facebook Shop is a great addition. I know in Southeast Asia, Facebook, Instagram, WhatsApp are huge to every business in this region. Right. I think one problem that every sort of startup or business has is analytics setup on their website is to make sure they deliver a good user experience, having a fast website and fast hosting. Mm-hmm. Those are not a lot of businesses lack this. So I think what Facebook Shop does is to level the playing field. The customer can enjoy a good experience whilst never having to leave those ad platforms. The social media platforms.
Right.
So I think it's a huge game changer for those people that have a website or don't have one, because they don't need to rely on their website to deliver results. So anyone that has the ability to get on Facebook Shop, I think they should do it. Ultimately, they can see this as an additional channel of revenue. And if it delivers a better experience than your current website does in terms of speed, in terms of just mobile friendliness, then it makes total sense to be using Facebook Shop.
Right. Speaking of Facebook, there's been a huge furore created due to the Stop Paid for Profit campaign. Have you seen that having a multifold effect in clients that you work with? And what would you say are better solutions, through performance marketing that can still deliver results?
Yeah. When it comes to Facebook, I think for a lot of reasons people are upset with Facebook, but that just shows the amount of power Facebook has, right? And I think right now, if you are reliant on Facebook, if you need Facebook to work for you, there isn't a better time to get a cheaper cost now.
Right.
So if you are not upset with Facebook on all those other social reasons, and you want to grow your business, I advise investing in Facebook today, because eventually it will get more expensive.
Yeah.
And at the end of the day, we want to experiment and test as much as possible.
Right.
When it comes to other platforms that people forget, if you're targeting the US, for example, Bing makes up 36% of search share in the US.
Right.
On Google, Hispanic or Spanish makes up for 40% of searches in the US. So there are a couple ways that you can already expand without having to do much extra effort. When it comes to Southeast Asia, I would say Pinterest is a forgotten channel as well.
Right.
You're able to see good returns on Pinterest. If you're targeting Japan, Yahoo is still very relevant in Japan. So just looking at these other ad networks and seeing what extra things you can extract. Twitter is one that's forgotten as well. I would say that with platforms like Snapchat and TikTok.
Right.
I would say right now, if you don't have the creative ability just yet, I would steer away from it for the time being until you do have it, because those are very creative dependent. And those can build your brand very quickly only if you have the right creatives behind it.
Right.
Yeah.
Okay. We have a question. Hi, Rob. Rob mentioned about misconception of growth and defining what growth is supposed to mean. Does that mean that a company's profitability and the customer lifetime value are different?
So is performance marketing objective always a growth?
No, it's below that. Yeah.
Yeah. So let me know if I've answered your question correctly or not. Basically, what we're trying to move away from is moving away from return on ad spend and CPA as growth metrics.
Right.
A lot of businesses use them to determine the success of their campaigns.
Right.
However, you can plug in a lot of data that is related to your business to be able to assess based on what you're actually getting out of those campaigns, right? So if you understand the break-even point of your products, not by like a lot of customers come to me and say, my break-even point is at 5x return on ad spend.
Right.
But essentially, their break-even point is if they sell the product at $29 and they get $29 for it, or spent $29 to get that sale, that's their break-even point. However, if you are getting 5x return on $1 million, I don't think your break-even point is 5x. Right. So that's a sort of moving away from the return on ad spend metrics and cost per acquisition metrics to customer lifetime value and profitability. That will help you grow your business faster.
Okay. So essentially, are you saying that just looking at at ROS is pretty much being, myopic about the whole performance marketing game.
Yeah, I would say it's a, yeah, hence the word misconception. It doesn't directly relate to the growth of the business.
All right.
Because you've got other players out there like Amazon, Tokopedia, and Shopee, for example, that just focus on user acquisition. They don't care how much it costs them to get the sale.
Okay.
Right? So when we're competing on two different playing fields, it's not fair to the small business that's trying to compete against the customer optimizing towards growth metrics, whereas the small business optimizing towards short-term returns.
Right, got it. Sarah says, thanks for sharing with us. You mentioned about CRM for SMEs. How small are we talking here? I mean, for many SMEs, CRM can be quite a lot to take in.
Yeah.
Are there any particular recommendations on what size of business and what product category that you suggest to invest in CRMs?
Yeah. So basic need for SMB for today is to simply record the source of the lead,
right,
and if that resulted in the return or not. Okay,
right.
Those are the two things you need. And our team, we use HubSpot CRM because it's free. We're in the same situation as you probably, Sarif. And we only established in January of this year, so we're scaling up through our HubSpot CRM by being able to plug into our Google Ads accounts and Facebook accounts the data of what converted or not. We're able to determine how much we want to spend in those channels as well. We're also able to determine what's the value of a phone call over time if we keep recording it. Because the idea of you starting a CRM now, and why I'm advising you to do so now, is because in about 6 months' time, you'll have substantial amount of data to action on. So if you don't start collecting today, then by the time you start, you're going to miss out on all the rich data that you've had from the last 6 months.
Got it. All right. You spoke about understanding intent through search query, right? How do you go about it? Do you have a list of long tails that you write for each and every campaign, or is there a specific how, what, when for each search query equal to X intent, whatever it is?
Yeah, that's a good question. Just a quick one on the long tail versus short tail. Our team personally does not use long tail keywords.
Right.
Simply because we don't believe we can guess what the user is going to type in.
Right.
So for that reason, we try to broaden the scope out a little bit.
Yeah.
As far as we go, we probably go, let's just say 3 tails, so 3 words. That's as far as we go. But in terms of measuring intent, right? Let's just use the example of a car, for example.
Right.
So if someone types in best SUVs in Singapore in 2020, then they'll come up with a list. And say, for example, I'm Honda trying to sell CRV. If someone types in Honda CRV, that's pretty specific, right? If someone types in Honda CRV 2-liter, or if that's the largest engine that they have, then that's quite specific. So you can judge that intent as someone that is looking to do a test drive soon. Right? Just based off assumptions. Now, best SUV is probably a bit more broad. So we'll direct them to a landing page by Honda that shows them why we're ranked as one of the best in class. So that's how we sort of determine the search intent. When it comes to other channels, because obviously not everything's keyword based, we try and monitor the activity on the website. So we try and monitor how people are interacting. We try and measure engagement and create a level playing field across each channel by measuring cost per engagement. So what is engagement for us is people visiting multiple pages, downloading an ebook. It is spending a minimum amount of time on site, performing any action that ends up leading to a more valuable action, right? So that's how we judge. That's how we judge the other channels on intent. Right.
Okay. For selling, you spoke about the case study, how you track every touch point within the app. How do you assign values for each of these touch points?
Sure. So what we looked at here is what is the average spend or revenue that's generated from each of these transactions, or the customer lifetime value, right? So hence having that CRM data.
Right.
From there, we were like, okay, from how many people generate invoice contributed to this number? Let's just say 50% did. So if the lifetime value or the customer was worth $100, then we'd assign $50 to the generate invoice portion.
Right.
Okay. Then if it came to someone signing up, well, of the number of people signing up, how much did they contribute to the overall goal? Let's just say it was 10%. So we assign $10 to that action. And then of the how many people that downloaded resulted in that action, let's just say it was 1%, then we assign $1 to the download. Right. So that way we've got dollar values assigned across the board. And from there, automation does the rest. And automation is only going to get smarter with this as well. To add on that, I can share with you that Google has in the pipeline, in about 3 to 4 weeks' time, you can quote me on this, they're going to launch a new bidding strategy for target new customer. So because Google has all the cookie data, they know if it's a new customer coming to you or an existing one. So that allows you to set a separate target to be able to acquire a new customer. Cool. In the future, they will have a target profit and a target lifetime value. I can share that these are probably going to be in beta to larger customers at the end of the year or start of next year, and they'll probably be released to the public by 2022. So hence, the messages I'm sharing today, it's essential to move now.
All right. That's interesting that you spoke about third-party cookies, because Apple is really closing down on that. So what should businesses be doing differently if they were to completely ban? It's interesting that I thought Google will follow Apple in the same pursuit. But yeah, what should performance marketers be doing differently to amp up the game?
Yeah. Once again, CRM will be very important in this case, because you need to understand what channels are working for you, and just understand all those touch points, right? If we're going to lose out on that data, then we need to figure out how we're going to reach back to these users again. So that's first and foremost. To be honest, I don't have all the answers to that question, because we're also trying to figure out what we do without the ability to remarket. But hence, collecting customer data, looking at soft conversion actions like a generate ebook, because at least you can still email the person.
Right.
So these are little things to start thinking about to level up the performance marketing game. Similar to car dealers, for example, they'll measure things like download the PDF or come for a test drive, because these are important actions that happen before someone purchases a car.
Right.
We need to now bring those tactics to the e-commerce game and to the lead generation game, because we need to also find ways to get that data earlier. Right? Because if we're going to lose cookies, then we essentially lose that engagement portion that we're trying to remarket to. Yeah. So those are things that we'll probably look at.
Yeah, because it's all, again, like how you focused on different types of ads for different part of the purchasing journey, like awareness, interest, and desire and action. You had different ads. So, and that kind of data kind of binds it all together. So, yeah, we're just looking at different data points, essentially, right?
Yeah, and hence the need for a CRM it will be essential.
Okay. We have another question. What is the first step for a new e-commerce to start performance marketing, and what should be the first focus? Is it the reach, and how do we know that you're scaling up, and how do you know when to scale up, basically?
Yeah, that's a good question. So if we actually go back to one of the slides, the one with the awareness, interest, consideration stages. Yes, this one. So where I would start off is at the purchase stage. Okay. Our strategy for our customers is to find a way to make advertising pay for itself. If you have a product, and let's just say you're selling a Honda CR-V, then you want to show up every time someone searches for Honda CR-V. What you'd like to do in order for you to scale up profitably, you probably want to include a very lucrative offer or something along those lines to be able to just collect customer data first, to understand your customer. Now, understanding customer from a from a survey standpoint versus a performance marketing standpoint, it's very different. If you're collecting survey data, you probably looked at someone's IC or identification card to find out their date of birth and all those details. I can put my date of birth on the internet for as 99 years old, right? So hence, there's, as much as we can follow the data that Google and Facebook supplies us, we can't follow with complete truth, right? So it's important to collect data directly from these platforms. What are the things that these users are interested in? Where are they coming from? Where do they live? What's their household income according to Google and Facebook? Those are things that I'd start off with by getting those initial sales first and then working backwards. From there, I'll move from Honda CR-V to best SUVs as an example. And then you work your way up and work your way to a point where you understand your customer well enough to reach more of the same customer.
Right.
So by getting those initial sales first, obviously, what I'd like to also mention is don't underestimate the power of your offline strategy either, right? If you're going out and you're selling products via e-commerce website, and you are probably not the best time, but if you were to go to stalls and marketplaces physically to show off your products and then move them online, that's also a very powerful way. Because at the end of the day, it's about you, performance marketing is about getting that data, understanding your customer, and then finding more of the customer. Right? That's the best way for you to scale up. So by finding that starting point could be the people, capturing low-hanging fruit first, and then finding ways to reach new customers.
Okay. I was quite intrigued by the line you mentioned about individual ROS goals can be assigned to campaigns. However, return on ad spend does not equal profit. And you mentioned, 1,000 at 20x is less likely profit than 1 million at 2x. Just could you expand a little bit more on that, Robert? Mainly because yes, you're also looking at a higher pool of actually ad spend, but you also want to make sure that you optimize with every iteration, right? So could you expand a little bit more on that in terms of how it is less likely profitable?
Yeah. So I think it starts off with what your overall business objective is. What do you want to achieve, right? If your objective is to hit a certain profit goal within the year, and it's important that you set one that is reachable, that is time bound, that it's within reach, then you can start looking different strategies to get there. So the example I gave is a bit more extreme, but essentially, there is some truth to it. If you assign, if you were to, ultimately it depends on your margins, but if you understand your margins well enough, you know that there's a certain point in which you cannot spend anymore. But what you do by spending $1 million, for example, is you capture so much data on your customers and that you can, over time, become much more efficient. Now, not everyone has $1 million to spend, right? So, but it's important to not let ROAS be something that stops you from acquiring more of that data. So over time, you can probably get back to that 10x that you're achieving, but you need to be able to spend money on research and experimentation to be able to scale up further, right? Because if you narrow your funnel now, you're likely in a position where you're too early, right? Amazon hasn't stopped narrowing their funnel. They still focus on acquiring.
Right.
When Amazon wants to turn more of a profit, then they can start trimming back on the ad spend.
Right.
If you want to, in performance marketing, it is about capturing more customer data, understanding all the individual touch points, and over time, you can find ways to be more efficient.
All right, sounds good. Finally, I have one question on Microsoft is currently investing in AI, in media, in creativity, creative production, to the fact that it's looking at using AI to actually optimize ad spend across different channels. What do you think about that in terms of how does that impact performance marketing, and what should companies be mindful of to be able to be equipped for the next level, I guess?
Yeah. Once again, I think it comes back to the CRM data, because that essentially will tell the AI what is valuable to you and what marketing channels work well for you. I think a lot of not just Microsoft, but all companies are just trying to help advertisers level up their level of personalization.
Right.
I've started to, you hear a lot more of, stories like, not stories, but people mentioning, like Facebook's listening to me, Instagram's listening to me.
Mm-hmm.
I didn't even mention pizza, but somehow a pizza ad showed up.
Right.
I was thinking it. Right?
Yeah.
That's the level of personalization we want to get to.
Yeah.
And AI will help us get us there.
Yeah.
Not that it's predictable, it's our search behavior and the timing in which those ads show up and us noticing them when that occurs.
Right.
So what AI will help us do is help us respect the entire user journey and make sure the right message is served to each touch point. But without understanding or tracking those touch points, AI can't do much more than that. Right? Because then what creatives, like how will it know what creatives to create? How will it know where to direct those users to? So we need to have the foundation to have those landing pages that people go to have the information that they're looking for, and then you have AI to be able to direct users to there. That's sort of, I'm not sure if that answered your question well enough, but I think that's where AI can be looped in to be, and that's where cookieless also won't be too much of a factor in the future as well.
Okay. Cool. Sounds good. We have no more questions. Thank you, Rob. Although thinking of pizza and having an ad on pizza is a little bit creepy. Thank you so much for your time. There's no other questions. Everybody who's on the session will receive the the download of the webinar, and feel free to ask any questions and reach out to Rob. You can reach out to him through LinkedIn, emails, and we also have our GetCraft lead for Singapore, Kimberly, who you can ask for, because we are having SME packages, so creative production, marketing, performance marketing, all of it in one go. Thank you, everyone. Thank you, Rob, for taking your time today and sharing with us your nuggets of performance marketing and what we should be looking at.
Okay. Thank you.
Yeah, take care. Take care. Bye-bye.